Midnight Patriots Nation. Welcome the latest installment of Midnight Bites. Tonight's episode, The Socialist Lie Exposed. Cubans ready to fight. From the Wall Street Journal, July 11th. Headline: Cuban protests demand freedom, food, COVID-19 vaccines. Thousands of Cubans flocked to the streets in Havana and at least 14 other towns throughout the communist island in a wave of protests demanding an end to the 62-year dictatorship and denouncing a scarcity of food and COVID-19 immunizations. Well, I definitely believe the freedom and food part. Continuing on. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. People shouted as they marched through the streets on Sunday. Videos posted on social media showed. Freedom. Freedom. Analysts believe the protests are uncommon in a country where dissidents are closely monitored by the police. Wow. Just. Wow. I guess these so-called analysts, just conveniently left out, disappeared, imprisoned, tortured, dismembered and executed. But it's only, combating extremists, so it's okay, right? President Miguel Diaz-Canel blamed the protests on the United States, which he claims is trying to economically starve Cuba and cause a social explosion, in a televised address on Sunday. So, I guess Cuba didn't get any of the foreign aid that was doled out to the rest of the world by leftists in the relief bill. Moving on. As demonstrators sought to broadcast the protests live with their cell phones through social media, Cuba's authorities cut internet service on multiple occasions on Sunday. Okay, Midnight Patriots Nation. If we use the same standards that leftists and big tech tyrants like Dorsey at Twitter and Zuckerberg at Facebook talk about, to frame this issue, wasn't the Cuban communist regime just trying to quote combat extremism? The story continues. People are at the point when things explode, and when they explode it's difficult to control, said Alejandro de la Fuente, a Cuba expert at Harvard University. Okay, are we the only ones that have noticed that socialist and communist nations, praised for their noble policies and humanity by leftists like Bernie Sanders and AOC, seem to be crumbling? Places like Venezuela and Cuba that quote spread the wealth, but only amongst politicians whilst the balance of the population lives in abject poverty. You know, the policies the liberals want us to blindly believe and allow them to implement here, as quote new and revolutionary, as the cure-all to the evils of capitalism. Just because they fail everywhere else, doesn't mean we shouldn't force them down the throats of Americans, right? Then they wonder why they cannot gain ground in places like South Florida. The answer is staring them right in the face. You're trying to sell socialism and communism to Cubans, stupid. The streets have been taken over by the military and armed civilians, independent journalist Abraham Jimenez wrote on his Twitter account. I saw many people beaten and arrested. Armed civilians. How is that possible? Cuba has gun control measures that the leftists in this country can only dream of. So how could that be true? See, even communist dictatorships cannot stop the black market. Hope everybody picked up the sarcasm there. Final thoughts. People that live under socialist and communist regimes were all sold a bill of goods. Those that crave power manufacture consent with empty promises of spreading prosperity and destroying corruption. Then they only spread poverty, despair and tyranny. That's it for this episode of Midnight Bites. If you liked what you heard, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. If you would like to support our work and take a stand for free speech, please visit our Patreon, the link will be in the description. From all of us here at the Midnight Patriots, remember, the Constitution is not just a suggestion.